The vibe in Baltimore changed fast. First came the rumors about growing tension between Lamar Jackson and the head coach. Then came the criticism about his approach and habits, followed by public denials trying to put out the fire. And all of a sudden, analysts are talking about a possible trade, even pointing to an obvious destination outside of Baltimore. When you connect all those dots, it stops feeling like background noise and starts looking like something real is being discussed behind closed doors. And then came the twist no one saw coming. A possible replacement name started popping up, which tells you the team might already be thinking about an extreme scenario. Nothing has been decided yet, but the signs are all there, one leading straight into the next. If you want to understand how this story went from quiet whispers to something that could flip the entire franchise upside down, stick with me until the end, because what's happening here is way bigger than it looks. It started circulating behind the scenes with a story nobody in Baltimore expected to hear right now. One of the city's biggest newspapers reported that the relationship between Lamar Jackson and head coach John Harbaugh might not be as smooth as it sounds during interviews. Even with public praise after games, the talk is at away from the microphones. Tension has been building for a while. And in the NFL, that's never a small detail. What really stands out is the gap between the public message and the internal reality. Harbaugh continues to protect Lamar publicly, like any coach with a franchise quarterback, but the report suggests that this might be more about doing his job than reflecting how things actually feel inside the building. When a head coach feels like he has to walk on eggshells to keep things under control, it's usually a sign something isn't working the way it should. This kind of tension doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It usually grows from small situations that keep repeating, unmet expectations, and frustrations that never really get cleared up. In Lamar's case, the message being sent is that patience inside the Ravens facility may be wearing thin, despite all the talent and success he's already brought to the team. And once rumors like this gain traction, the conversation naturally moves beyond just the relationship with the coach. The question stops being, is the vibe bad, and becomes, is the player's behavior helping or hurting the team? That's exactly where things start to heat up even more inside Baltimore. Beyond the situation with the head coach, another issue started to bother people internally. The criticism shifted toward Lamar's off-field habits, especially how he's been using his time away from mandatory team activities. According to the report, this became a real topic inside the Ravens building and started to factor into how the quarterback is being evaluated. And this goes way beyond what happens on Sundays. What raised the most eyebrows was the idea that Lamar might not be fully locked in. Habits like staying up late playing video games and even dozing off during team meetings were mentioned. For an average player, that's already a bad look. But for a quarterback, the leader of the offense in the locker room, it carries a completely different weight. The criticism isn't about rest or downtime, but about priorities. The argument is that Lamar could be spending more time training at the team facility, taking advantage of resources that very few players in the league have access to. When people inside the organization feel like a leader could be doing more, that quickly becomes an ongoing conversation among coaches and executives. That debate only adds fuel to the existing tension. This has never been about Lamar's talent. That's never been questioned. It's about internal perception. And once that perception starts to turn negative, pressure builds fast, leading to public responses and attempt to control the narrative. With the story gaining traction, John Harbaugh was forced to respond. During a press conference, the Ravens head coach flat out denied the reports, saying he didn't know where they came from. The response was short, direct, and clearly designed to stop the rumors from growing any further in that moment. That kind of denial is pretty common in the NFL, especially when it involves a starting quarterback. Admitting to any kind of public conflict would only create a much bigger problem, both inside the locker room and outside of it. That's why Harbaugh's approach was to shut the door immediately on any deeper interpretation. Still, when a coach has to deny something that forcefully, it doesn't go unnoticed. The fact that the topic even made it to a press conference shows how loud the noise had become. And in this league, sometimes silence is less than a firm denial. So now the situation feels split. On one side, you have reports of internal tension and criticism. On the other, you have the official message saying there's no issue at all. That contrast opened the door for national analysts to start looking beyond Baltimore and asking what happens if this relationship actually reaches its breaking point.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, but before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
That's when Lamar Jackson's name entered a completely different conversation. Fox Sports host Colin Cowherd said that if the Ravens decide to move in another direction, there's one team that makes a lot of sense. In his view, the New York Jets will be the most obvious landing spot for a quarterback like Lamar. The main reason is pretty straightforward. The Jets have first-round draft picks and, historically, haven't been able to develop quarterbacks. Cowherd used that to argue the team needs someone ready-made, a star who can walk in and instantly raise the level of the offense, without waiting years for development. Within that logic, Lamar fits perfectly. He's explosive, accomplished, and capable of transforming an offense the moment he steps on the field. For a franchise that struggled for years at quarterback, the idea of going all in on a player of that caliber almost feels inevitable. That doesn't mean a trade is actually going to happen, but comments like this shape the narrative. Once national voices start pointing to specific teams, the story stops being just a local rumor and starts gaining real momentum across the league. Even with all this noise, a trade is still viewed as unlikely for now. Lamar Jackson is one of the most productive quarterbacks in the NFL since entering the league, combining strong passing numbers with game-changing impact as a runner. Players like that don't come around every year. At the same time, the NFL is driven by tough decisions. When internal tension, questions about commitment, and outside pressure all collide, teams have to weigh the cost of staying the course against the cost of starting over. For the Ravens, that means thinking about the present, and especially the future of the franchise. If Lamar were to leave, the impact would be immediate. Teams desperate for an elite quarterback would jump into the conversation. Draft picks would suddenly carry massive value, and Baltimore would be forced into fast, high-stakes decisions. None of that is simple, especially when you're talking about a former MVP. For now, the approach is cautious. The Ravens are moving forward with Lamar as their quarterback, but there's now a cloud of uncertainty hanging over what comes next. And once these kinds of discussions begin, even without an imminent trade, the next season starts being watched with a whole different level of attention. Everything that's come out so far shows the situation is way bigger than one random rumor. It started with internal friction, moved into criticism about habits, followed by public denials, gained momentum with analysts floating possible destinations, and now includes talk of a backup plan at the most important position in football. When all that connects, it's clear the Ravens are facing a decision that could shape the franchise for years to come, whether that means fixing the situation around Lamar or preparing for a completely different future. And that's where things get really interesting. If you were in Baltimore's front office, would you focus on repairing the internal issues and sticking with Lamar as the face of the franchise, or would you seriously start considering a new direction? I want to hear what you think. So drop your take in the comments. Do you believe this ends with Lamar staying in Baltimore, or do the signs point towards something bigger coming? One thing is certain. Once conversations like this start gaining traction, nothing goes unnoticed. Every comment, every move, every decision carries extra weight because the future of the team is on the line. And until a clear answer comes, all eyes stay locked on Baltimore, where the next move could change everything.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself.